if I'm a employee, I'm going to do my job, but to get promoted or to get more, I'm going to then show you like the other two things I can do. And so it's like, that's how you could, it's added value, right? That you're creating along the way that maybe wasn't asked for, but like, that's how you can start getting more and building more. And so I think to your point, it's like, it's all or nothing and everybody wants these grand plans and schemes. And I'm like, sometimes it's not the sexy work that gets the things done.
This is You Should Talk To, a podcast for busy marketing leaders who are looking for support and tips on getting shit done. In each episode, Daniel Weiner interviews marketing leaders and discusses their experience, successes, and failures around hiring agencies. If you're interested in finding and choosing the right agency partner, then let's jump in.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the You Should Talk To podcast. I am your host and your sponsor until somebody ponies up, maybe after today. You Should Talk To pairs brands and marketers for free with vetted agencies and or freelancers because finding great agencies and freelancers is a pain in the ass. Excited to be joined today by, I would say, colleague turned friend, Kimberly Bean, who is the VP of Integrated Marketing and Menu Strategy at Papa John's, a longer title than I'm used to. But thank you for joining us today, Kimberly.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We love it. We love the background too. Is that home?
This is my office. So
okay, maybe Prada. Maybe they pay for a sponsorship after this.
You can get some Ryman in here, some Prada. Maybe Dolly wants to hang out.
I'm gonna email their CMO after this and tell them if they want some product placement, they better pony up.
Appreciate that.
We will dive right in. What is an unpopular opinion or a hot take or a gotcha in the marketing world that you have?
I think an unpopular opinion, I think marketers like to be splashy and like unpopular. I am more of a strategic marketer. So to me, it's like slow and steady wins the race. And in a world where everybody's moving super fast and there's all these, like, I call it the boo, 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 like there's all these like smoking guns. It's like, it's less about that. And it's really, to me, it's like, what is your strategy? Who is your consumer? And really sticking to that is going to set you up for then those big ideas are going to come. You're going to get those other things, but it has to start with like just staying true to who you are and staying true to your consumer.
I'm curious in the space you're in of high stakes pizza.
Yeah.
How does that translate? Like, do you feel a pressure to like come out with some crazy new menu item and things of that nature?
All the time. I mean, like if you specifically with pizza, we're on air 365. We're talking to customers all the time because it is one of those products that you eat when you're happy, you eat when you're sad, you have a planned occasion, or it's a spontaneous occasion. So we're trying to meet all those need states all the time and being in front of the consumer. But that doesn't mean it should come at cost of like innovation for the sake of innovation to put things out there. If you go look, Papa John's has had a great track record. In the past 2 years, I think we put out like 12 innovations, and that's a lot, but It was done in a methodical way of understanding what is the need state of the consumer? What are they coming to us for? It's pizza, right? And so you start with why are people coming to you? And then what are they looking for from you? What are the occasions that they have? And making sure that you're innovating towards what they're looking for in an occasion and from their products and staying true to that. So it doesn't mean that we're not going to have innovation, but I'm not going to go innovate, 20 steps to the left to something that they're not looking for just because it's cool. Gochujang is amazing, cool flavor, but does it have a place here in pizza, or does it have a place? And I'm going to say that, and then you're going to see a Gochujang pizza next week. And
as long as you don't change that garlic sauce.
No, but that's the core equities. It's understanding what are your core equities. And so, last year we actually built the stuffed crust garlic, epic stuffed crust pizza. And that's true. It's we're known for dough, we're known for garlic, and you merge those two together and you continue to build upon what you're known upon. And then how do you bring that to the consumers who are looking for it? And it was one of the most successful launches we had because it's, again, staying true to your consumer and what are the insights and the benefits for them.
Love it. You've had quite the career journey and set of experiences, a lot of food stuff. We've got Bloomin' Brands, we've got Cracker Barrel, and now Papa John's, where I think you get to market probably the coolest thing in the world, which is pizza, in my humble opinion. Tell us a little bit about the journey to get here and what have you seen in terms of like consumer behavior evolving? I'm generally interested, especially for food, like pre-COVID versus post-COVID, of like how you have seen that change. But tell us a little bit about the journey in
The
in the food
journey,
world.
yeah, the food world. I feel like you're getting more and more food friends these days.
The whole every food brand in the country.
Well, good thing I've worked for a lot of the food brands in the country, but I love food, and it's I think you get to market. Well, first of all, it's about food and it's about people, and those are my two favorite things in the world. And marketing in this industry is doing that. You're bringing food to the people, and it's understanding that. And so, I didn't know, honestly, like I didn't grow up really understanding what marketing was or understanding what that was, but you grow into it and you learn. And so my path is actually interesting. I started on the operations side. I'm not a traditional marketer by any means, but I grew up in operations at Outback Steakhouse. I was actually a manager, and I was like, man, this is really cool. You can bring an experience to people. They may know about it, they may not understand it, but how do you bring that to them, and how do you make them want it, and how do you crave it, or how does it come to life so that they know about it, and just creating that awareness. And so I fell in love with the ability to bring an experience to people that maybe they didn't know about. And so I went to the home office for Outback Steakhouse, and I've had so many different jobs, but one of my best leaders was like, you're checking boxes along the way to continue to evolve yourself, and then also being able to bring people with you on that journey. And so I've done things from I've developed recipes at Outback Steakhouse, and then I've also done consumer insights, to help people understand the path of food on the journey from the consumer standpoint. I've project managed putting a new concept into Brazil. And then I've worked in casual dining, I've worked in family dining, I've worked in QSR, I've worked for corporate, and I've worked for franchisees. But all of those different experiences have kind of culminated to helping me understand about the business and helping understand how do you make money for the business through marketing. Which really to me is like the big insight. It's not marketing for the sake of marketing, but in the day we're here to, generate sales and growth for the company, and have all that past experience helps me to do that. So, I think when you're asking about how has that changed along the way, I've seen a lot of things. And when I first started, I call it the LTO drug.
I feel like all marketers say that. Everybody needs to be smoking I've seen a lot of things along the way.
I've seen a lot of things, guys. And you have, and we're getting up there, guys. But you have, and so it started where you had a really cool product and there wasn't a ton of people in the marketplace, and so you could just blast that at people, bring something cool new into the product in the world, and people would come and get it, and you use TV, right? And so here's your cool steak, here's your unlimited shrimp, here's your whatever that may be, and people were like, oh, that's great. But things have changed so much in that, because there's so much more competition than there used to be. And then to your point, for COVID, it has exacerbated that, where it used to be in pizza, you could get pizza delivered or you could get Chinese delivered. And now you have all of these third-party aggregators. You can get sushi delivered. You can get a steak dinner delivered. You can get a cookie. If you want one cookie, I've done it.
I was going to say, I feel called out.
No, but I've done it. But those are hitting our occasions too. And so, you're not just fighting for share among pizza space anymore. You're fighting for share among eating. And so that's changed the landscape, especially since COVID. What do
you think about loyalty? I wanted to stop you. What do you think about loyalty, especially in your world? Do you think people are loyal to their pizza provider, I'll say, or do you think everybody's up for grabs?
Yeah, people have their favorite. That doesn't mean that's who they're going to use. I think actually, Papa John's has great brand loyalty. People love them, but they're not always, they're either not top of mind. Either that's due to marketing or they're just not the chosen one. I say this, it sounds dirty, but pizza's promiscuous. We say that around, we're like, pizza's promiscuous.
This is a child-friendly podcast, Kimberly. Let's keep it PG here.
It's true. Our customers.
I'm a pizza slut. I'll say it.
Yeah,
exactly. Anybody can buy me. Depending.
No, and everybody has probably. And so depending on what the offer is, what the value is, who you're with, may all choose where you're going for pizza. And so even if you have your favorite, because, your friend that you're with may want something else, or it may not be in the vicinity that you're looking into, or it may not be what you saw in a commercial, there's not necessarily that loyalty.
You are absolutely correct. To that end, what's your best advice to other VPs, CMOs, marketing leaders in general in 2024 in your world of food or beyond, of how to survive, essentially?
It sounds so basic. It goes like, I know you're going to be like, this is the most boring thing ever. It's just, it's being true to who you are. It's knowing who you are, and it's knowing who your customer is, and it's continuing to provide that differentiation throughout everything that you do. And so I think, for Papa John's, we are about innovation. That's why my job is so fun. But it's not, again, not innovation for the sake of innovation. It's bringing quality products at a fair price point that people, love, and that, they see value in coming to us for that versus the competitors who's just maybe a quick bite or a nostalgic play. So I think it's really, but you have to stay true to that. And it's really easy to get sidetracked. I think, like we can talk about that probably in a little bit or at some point about all the things out there in the world and, what all the different mediums that there are, all the different opportunities there are. But it's really, if you stay true to what your brand is, what do they stand for, who your consumer is, and then picking those few and small things, but having those resonate through everything that you do, then your brand starts to stand out, your product starts to stand out, and you can really create that loyalty.
I'm curious then, how do you decide what's innovation for innovation's sake? Like in the example of gochujang pizza or something like that, like, is it when you're innovating or coming up with something new, is everything based on like a crazy large data and insights and talking to customers? Or are you like, this sounds kind of cool and I think we should try it?
I have like an 80-20 rule that I've always gone by. Like I'm very much into data, into understanding who the consumer, like what the consumer's needs are. And like, I hate the stupid saying, like, people didn't know they need an iPhone, right? But, like Ford just didn't build a faster horse. So it's understanding the need states that get to that new product or that get to that next level for the consumer. So I do think there's a huge amount of data, but I mean, let's be clear, like there is innovation out there, and I never want data or science to ruin a good idea. So there is that 20% like magic or intuition that's going to, bring us along. And so I would say, there's some things that we've done out here in our world that are based on the data and the consumer. And then there's, you need to listen to that guy in the back of your head that's like, this is a good idea, you need to follow it through. And it doesn't mean you throw all the process out the window, you put it through it, but keep with that gut. If you are rooted in your concept, you're rooted in your strategy, you're rooted in your consumer, there's probably a nugget there that you need to go after.
How quickly do you pull? I'm guessing, definitely not from you, but if there have been misses by Papa John's in the past.
There have been misses.
How long till you like pull the plug? Like how long do you get it before you're like, I don't think this is for us?
So I'm very much about strategy and process. So I have a 5-stage gate process that we go through, that everything goes through. So it may be, I am about failing fast. So learning what you can learn, and then how do you continue to move forward. But I'm also like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What can you learn about that experience that then maybe takes it, you start back at 0 and you start again. So I think there's the times where things die in gate 1 or 2. And then there's things that we get all the way to gate 4. The consumer says they're going to like it. Operations can handle it. And then we get there and it doesn't work. And so it's, having that mindset not to push things through just because you've gotten to gate 4 and you're like, well, crap, we have nothing else to put on the market right now. And understanding like that's why it's important to have the process, having multiple items that you're putting through that process. So then you have the optionality to continue to move and put the puzzle pieces where they need to go based on how successful or where things are planning out.
Yeah, I feel like with the reach Papa John's has, you learn or you find out pretty fast to your point of if something feels like it's working or if it's not working on a national scale.
You do, but there's always interesting things where like customers say they're going to want it, but it's like in a silo. And so like, again, it's like, how do you like, but then when you get it out there, you didn't understand the trade it was going to take. So they're like, well, this is really great, but it's not going to take away from my normal pizza occasion because I just want a pepperoni pizza on Saturday night with my family. And so, it is interesting. Even the biggest and best. I mean, I've seen a lot of companies that have put a lot of money behind innovation and it just falls flat because they didn't understand how it worked within their ecosystem.
Well, I look forward to that gochujang pizza if that's on the.
I'll make you one right now. Yeah. I mean, like we go to the kitchen. Like
I do want to come to the kitchen at some point while we're here, putting that into the ether. So, my favorite question of the podcast: your title, VP of Marketing. Even though there's some menu strategy on it, folks I speak to with your title in your role are getting hit up 7 million times a day by vendors, agencies, all sorts of stuff. Is that the case for you?
All the time. And they're not just hitting me up, they're hitting my colleagues up. So like I get the email from them after they talk to me and then they talk to somebody else. And yeah.
Gotcha. I'm curious if you could give a PSA of sorts to agencies and vendors who want to do business with Papa John's, which is presumably every agency or vendor out there. What would you tell them?
I think there's two things. I think first, do your homework. I mean, I know that everybody is going after everybody, and there's a lot of business out to be had, and it's scrappy, and there's more agencies than ever. But there's nothing worse than an agency coming in and pitching you an idea, and it's not who you are, it's not who your consumer is, or it actually conflicts with data that you have. And so, obviously, not everybody has access to all the data, but there's some simple things that you can do to understand, like just about who the business is. And then the second thing is listen. Like, I think there's so many times where, the agencies are trying so hard to show you what they can do and be like, look how great we are and look what we can do for you. And that's important. And you have to get that across, but it can't come at the expense of understanding who we are as a brand and understanding what I'm looking for. And so I think, taking that time and really, really listening, echoing that back before you go into what your peel, your pitch, or what you're trying to do.
Is there anything somebody can say in an entirely cold outreach to make you take the call?
Spell my name right.
That's it? What a low bar. If you're not in if you're not in buying mode and like it's a random Tuesday and somebody's reaching out, is there anything somebody can do to make you take the call?
I think, if there is an insight in that email that, resonates with who my consumer is, and something that, that is from like a business point of view, I'm more there than look who my cool client is that you can work with. Like that you're going to get those a ton of times. And by the way, that's probably going to cost me a lot of money and I probably can't afford it. So, I think for me, it's like finding that insight that makes sense for who we are. You're
going to get a Prada bag in the mail from somebody now. I can almost guarantee it.
I hope so. No.
I hope so too. Well, you'll have to report back. I've seen a big shift, especially since COVID, I would consider you on the big brand category, a brand that is reputable and people have heard of and recognize and stuff like that, of moving towards smaller independent agencies who specialize in like 1 to 2 things. I'm curious if that's the case for you all, and what do you think of that trend in general?
I love this trend, actually. I think, there was a time where everything was like bigger and better and the one-stop shop and that's great. But after COVID, things have become so agile and the marketplace changes so quickly, especially in pizza, that it's having these agencies that specialize in what they do, that have a pulse on what they do and who the consumer are, that can actually bring insights to you. And they also are able to be more agile. They're more willing to be more agile. I love having an 18-month pipeline for my products and, for our calendar, but like telling me that we have to like go shoot everything 6 to 9 months out when, in 3 months from now, there's going to be a new president. And I don't know what the whole, economic status is going to be. And that affects pizza very much. And so I found these smaller, agencies to be able to work more nimbly. They also are more personable. You're going to get a personalized experience out of this. They're really listening. They're fighting for your attention as well. And so I think this is a really neat time to be in this space, and that what you can get for your money with some of these smaller brands, with these more boutique. I think the thing that I always go back to is if you have multiple ones of these smaller, specialty areas, who is pulling them all together? What does your IAT look like that you're now going to say, hey, this is how these different agencies work together. This is their role. And then how are we, pulling that common thread through?
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually right before this on the phone with another, what I would say, big brand on the B2B to C side, who has $100,000 for a project. And the words out of their mouth were, we went to some of our bigger agency partners and they were quoted $700,000 and $1 million. And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I know several people who would foam at the mouth for $100,000 for this scope and project. So yeah, it's always interesting. To your point, like with the amount of agencies out there, I tell people for most stuff, like within reason, you can align on any budget. Again, like rooted in reality. Like you can't, pay pennies for some stuff. But there are just so many agencies. Like even the term agency has become muddied. There are so many different types of groups. I'll say that brands have more options than ever, truthfully.
And I'm actually using, our creative agency is doing some strategy work right now. And so there is that optionality, agency is the kind of this like weird word that everybody just throws around, honestly, like, oh, go talk to the agency. And you're like, well, which one?
Well, I think it's funny. People, there's like this new trend where people don't want to be called an agency, where they're like, oh, we're not an agency, or which I find especially funny because when groups tell me that because they want me to send them leads, I'm like, oh, I only work with agencies. And they're like, oh, we'll be an agency.
Weird. We're an agency.
Yeah, we're back. We're back to an agency. Yeah, I feel like
we rebranded.
People want to call themselves like consultancy. I post about it all the time. People want to call themselves collectives or consultancies, or we're an anti-agency agency. I'm like, I don't ever hear from CMOs or VPs, we're looking for an anti-agency agency. You know, they're like, I want normal people who like give a shit, is like generally the sentiment I get, who are reasonably good at what they do.
100%. And that can show their value fairly quickly.
I think I'm curious your opinion. In my world, I think value is such like a, I don't know if I would say it's a totally BS word. I'm always curious because value means different things to different people. And I'm always like, who decides the value? Like, I could think something's valuable, you could think something's not valuable. Like, it's all over the place. I think it comes down to, like aligning on the value first, which I feel so few. They're like, we want to see stuff fast, and everybody just like dives in. And they align on like expectations kind of, but I'm like, what's value that makes you give us more money in 6 months is like a common question I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I think because it goes to the consumers, like my consumer value is different to different people. Sometimes it's absolute value. I'm like, I want the cheapest thing out there. That's value. Sometimes it's like, it's worth what it's cost, right? And it's what do you get out of that? And so for me, again, you'll hear me go back to it. At the end of the day, as a marketer, my job is to make my company more money. I can do that through sales. You know, if it's brand awareness, whatever. That there's different ways to make me more money. But at the end of the day,
appearing on prominent podcasts.
Obviously, this is going to change the game, and I can't wait for the Prada pizza to come out. But
that's innovation.
That is innovation. There'll be little leather, it'll be in a leather case. It's going to be great. But it's showing, how are you adding something that I couldn't currently do? So what are you doing that, the purpose of an agency is I'm obviously hiring you because there's either a skill set you have that I don't have, or there's bandwidth that you have that I don't have, or there's some sort of knowledge, right? And so how are you providing one of those to me, and how are you adding to what we're doing versus just replacing what we're doing?
No, I love it. I also I agree with what you said. There's so many people or agencies, I think, who want to do these, they want to be your thought partner and these grand things. And to your point, sometimes you are literally just checking a box for bandwidth, and that's okay. That's the money's still green. You're still a partner or a thought partner, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like sometimes agencies turn their nose to stuff like that. They want the bigger thing.
Right, but I think you start. First of all, how do you get your foot in the door somewhere? How do you show?
100%.
I hate saying. How do you show your value?
You can still say value. I don't think value is the worst word ever. I just think it's ill-defined often. People just throw out, I want value.
But,
and I'm like,
but
okay.
As soon as you show you what you're capable of, it's I'm going to give you more, and you can do more. And by the way, it's the best thing I do. If I'm a employee, I'm going to do my job, but to get promoted or to get more, I'm going to then show you the other two things I can do. And so it's that's how it's added value, right? That you're creating along the way that maybe wasn't asked for, but that's how you can start getting more and building more. And so I think to your point, it's it's all or nothing, and everybody wants these grand plans and schemes. And I'm like, sometimes it's not the sexy work that gets the things done.
I agree. I feel like we should clip that. That'll be the title of this episode. Can you think of a really negative agency experience you have had in the past, and what made it negative?
I sound so boring. And
you don't have any, you've only had positives?
No. I sound boring, and I sound I'm going to sound like a whiny rat. People don't listen to me. Okay. But it was an experience back in the day, and we had this great product. We had understood what the benefits were to the consumer, what we were trying to do. And then the agency just took it. It was a creative agency, and they just went this totally different way. That was, one, not who our consumer was. And two, it wasn't, it was also out of budget. There's that part of it. But besides the fact.
Shocking.
But, and we went back and we were having conversations but look how cool it is. Look how, big it is. It's going to get so much attention. But it stopped listening to who our customer was. And at that point in time, even though it was the right product, the way it got communicated was not showing the benefits to that consumer, and it didn't work, And so I'll get, by the way, as the product innovation, I get, the rap for your product didn't work when we really didn't communicate what the benefits were to the consumer, and it wasn't perceived as something that they needed, nor was it targeting the right person or the right consumer.
That sucks.
It does suck. And if you just listen, not even to me, but listen to the consumer, listen to the data, listen to, it's sometimes I think, again, it goes back to agencies who partner with their, with the people that they're working with and are listening and willing to learn along the way, versus just trying to showcase how great you are. I know how great you are. I already hired you.
If they talk to you enough, you give them the answers to the test. I often say, I've had it plenty of times where I'll get feedback from a brand of they missed in the pitch because of this. And I'm like, I told them not to do that. And you told them not to do that. And I'll ask them and they're like, yeah, but we thought. I'm like, I get that could work 5% of the time or something. I don't know, where you wow them. I'm like, but why didn't you just do what they... why'd you do the one thing they told you not to do? It's bizarre, truthfully,
and
in
I'm
a lot
not
of those
saying,
cases. People miss all the time. I don't fault agencies for misses, but if it's something you're like, well, we told you not to do that. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that often.
Yeah, when there's yeah, but, and I'm like, okay. And I get it, they have their expertise and they're there for a reason. And I fully respect that. But then there's maybe how do you go out into, if we're in the pitch stage or we're in the category phase, how are we, what are the different options in, and show me why yours, but just give the customer what they're asking for. There's a reason, give them what they're asking for first and foremost.
I agree. Can you think of an awesome agency experience you've had in the past and what made it so wonderful?
Yeah, it was actually kind of the same thing. So it's more on the media side, having an agency who can, again, show their added value where they're in charge of buying media. Great. They're doing those things, but there's a lot of data and power that these companies have when they have this. And so it was actually where we were going through some segmentation work, and they're actually if you layered on X, Y, or Z, you could cut the data this way and you could see these additional people. And we were able to see another side of the consumer that we weren't able to see internally. And it was because they knew what we were looking for. They had listened to what we were trying to understand, and they had taken their own initiative, still did what they needed to do, but then, brought in some additional data points and facts that we didn't have access to. And then they partnered to say, how would you use this? What do you think about this, versus shoving it down our throat saying, this is who your consumer should be, or this is how you should target them. And it really has changed the game for how we partner with them. We can, from it, having a media agency who can connect with your consumer insights team, or can connect with your IDS team, or can connect with your loyalty team, adds so much more value than just, but it wasn't something that they said they were going to go out and do. It was just this listening to the need states and then providing optionality and those pieces.
Proactivity. It's the most common thing I hear from brands firing agencies. Lack of proactivity, and they got too comfy.
Yeah. And so I love that when people are, it's not, you got to do what you need, what you signed up to do, but how are you helping, how are you helping think through, or how are you helping us look through the ahead of the curves that we don't know are coming?
I talked about this on LinkedIn yesterday. If you stick to only what is in your scope rigidly, it is a recipe to lose clients, which piss people off often when I say that, because they're like, well, they got to pay for more. I'm like, I get it, but there's a million other things that don't land in a scope, and they largely focus around proactivity of bringing new ideas and doing all the stuff that doesn't land in a scope that you're not being paid for, that keeps you around for a long period of time.
I mean, I don't want to reduce it to being this simple, but an agency is an extension of your team, which they should be. Hopefully they feel like they want to be, right? Every time everybody's like, we want to feel like we're an extension of you. Right. But if I go ask, one of my full-time employees here to do something that's out of their scope, they don't tell me no. They're like, okay, well, maybe I have to move this, or what do we do this? It's how you grow within a company. It's how you grow your partnership together.
You're talking about all my latest LinkedIn posts. Yeah, you have to build.
I might just read. Maybe I just read your LinkedIn a lot.
Throw me a like every now and then, Kim. I think agencies have to build in a layer of flexibility into their scopes, because all I hear from folks in your position and marketing leaders in general is our business changes so frequently, and if every time I change something, we have to have a grand like
Yes.
come to Jesus or scope meeting that gets scheduled a week out, like we lose time, and like I just don't have the patience for it. Like, and they're not. It's not that they're opposed to paying more. They're like, I
Yeah.
just need them to do it, and like we will figure it out if we're actually partners and stuff like that. But like having a big we scope doesn't have this, or like we scope for 3 and now we're doing 4, you know, like brands just don't have time for that anymore with how fast stuff moves. And often like what you drew out in a scope on day 1 is not what you're doing exactly to the T 60 or 90 days in. So it's hard.
No. It's also may not be relevant like anymore, you know, as things
I feel for
as
agencies
business evolves.
It's hard for agencies too. I get it. Like the ideal client, I presume, for an agency coming from an agency is the brand that doesn't change their scope, adheres exactly to what you scoped for, and the engagement only grows. It doesn't contract, which is never the case. You know, like every scope
Unfortunately.
changes for the most part.
Agreed.
What are you most excited about in the marketing space at the moment? That's not AI. I keep hearing AI. So give me something else. What are you most excited about?
AI is cool. I mean, I can tell you about a cool but man, I'm excited actually this getting back to innovation. So to your point, like COVID shrunk menus. Like if I think about from a product standpoint, it shrunk because everything was about, you know, you didn't have supply chain or people were really stressed. And so it was this limited budget that people were spending. And so it was like about how do you maintain consistency? And now people are starting to creep back out. Customers are starting to, you know, want to be wowed again, even though but it's a twist because there's this intense need for value. The economy is still not great, but they want these experiences and they're asking and they're craving for these experiences. And so I'm super excited for where I see these companies are going who are finding this innovation within value or innovation within the everyday. And I think that's super exciting versus, you know, like the big one-offs or whatever. Like, and I think the exciting thing is how do you market that when that may not be the main traffic driving need, but that is still very important to a large amount of consumers.
Love it. What keeps you up at night from a marketing standpoint? What stresses you out?
I mean, consumers have more choices and more mediums than ever. I mean, like part of my title is integrated marketing. So how does everything come together? How do you find the right product that goes to the right consumer at the right time through the right channel? And that becomes overwhelming very quickly. And so I think for me, it's how do you making sure that you're hitting all these little need states that are important, that are becoming more important, but you're not taking the eye off the prize of who we are. And it gives me a lot of anxiety that I missed something or that we missed these 5 boxes because now every time you launch a program, you're not just talking to loyalty, you're talking to CRM, you're talking to social, you're talking to TikTok. There's 5 socials. It's all like, and it's overwhelming.
I think the job of the food marketer, not to, stroke your ego, is the hardest job or vertical potentially because, like, if you tell me right now, I'm talking to I'm like, Papa John sounds really good. I would do, like, terrible things to a pizza right now. But then if you're like, oh, like, what do you think about sushi? I'm like, well, that sounds good too. And you're like, well, what about Mexican? I'm like, I would also love a quesadilla, you know? It's so competitive and so like where I'm at when I'm hungry and like, I'm not saying that marketing doesn't help, of course, and you need to do it, but like there's so many other things. Like,
well, pizza's commoditized. Like people hate when I say, but it's a commodity. Like it's something that you get when you need to eat, but it's also something you get when you want to eat. And so, but to your point, like marketing, like how do I show up on third party? Like there has to be marketing. There has to be like, we have to think about that to be competitive. You can't just even be on DoorDash or be on Uber Eats. There's marketing that is associated with that. There's, communication. And so it is overwhelming to be in all those spaces at all those times, but also being at the mercy of people want comfort. People think most like I came from Cracker Barrel, people are like, oh, comfort is chicken and dumplings and it's pancakes, but comfort is also fresh food. So it is sushi, it is tacos, it is salads. And so
pizza is definitely a comfort food for me.
Pizza is the number one comfort food, just so you know.
Is it?
Yeah.
Like based on like data of people.
That is data. That is facts.
I think
Danny.
that's because if I'm having like a bad day or I'm like upset, I'm like, I just want a fucking pizza. Like,
So
give me pizza.
that's the insight. That's like pizza's what you get when you celebrate with your friends. Like, who doesn't want a pizza party?
How self-deprecating. I'm like, when I'm
No,
depressed.
no. But when you're happy, you want pizza. But when you're sad, you want pizza. And there's actually it's so funny. One of our agencies actually brought us this data that's like, when you're sad, people want sushi. When you're happy, people want sushi. When you're happy, people want, but like nobody wants sad sushi, but people want sad pizza.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Like,
if I'm sad, I want pizza or like dirty Chinese food.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's part of the human need state of pizza, like, and so, the companies that are going out and that are like really hitting on that and making sure that, people understand that and they're hitting that emotional need state of pizza when you're sad is like, it's brilliant.
Love it.
People always we're like, oh, show everybody these happy pizza occasions. But I mean, if I just wrecked my car and I'm having a shit day, I'm probably going to go get a pizza.
Love it.
I've never wrecked my car, though. Let's be clear.
That's good. I love it. We'll finish with some fun ones. I think I know the answer to the first one because you already said it. What was your very first job? Was that Bloomin'?
Are we going to say like first professional job or first job?
Back in the day.
Okay. So my first job was actually at a daycare.
Okay.
And if you know anything about me, I didn't have kids till much later in life. So I don't really enjoy children. And yet I chose this as my first job to take in high school.
Did it prepare you for what you're doing now in any regard? Patience, maybe?
Patience. Yes. Lots of patience. That's about it. Routine.
Since we're talking about food this whole episode, outside of Papa John's, because of course that would be your final
Obviously.
meal, what would your final meal be?
I'm going to sound like an old school dude, but
I can't, like a hungry man? What are you going to say?
Yeah, I would like a hungry man. No, I would love like a good bottle of red wine with an amazing ribeye, like medium rare, and like some potatoes. Like that sounds so like I need this decadent gourmet meal when I go out.
We're very similar. I would do the fattiest ribeye I could find. I would do a sushi boat. And if it's my last meal, if I'm being honest, I don't think I'd do the wine. I would do like an obscene amount of Diet Coke because that's like my guilty pleasure.
No, it's wine. But I would also ask you to go to Serendipity and get me a frozen hot chocolate.
Okay. I don't know what I would do for dessert. A Dairy Queen Blizzard, potentially.
What kind, though? This is actually a very important question.
Peanut butter cup, always.
That's the only answer, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
If you had said anything else, I just ended right now. And I would told you can't play this podcast.
Good. Well, you've already signed up for it, Kimberly, so I'd use it anyways, just FYI.
Now Dairy Queen's going to use this as data.
This is how I get all of the brands I help. I'm like, look what I have on you guys. So I'm like, give me all your business. My final question. Who is somebody who inspires you personally, professionally, or both?
Yeah.
Don't say Casey.
Casey Terrell has been a mentor of mine. He is a great dude. But I am full of cliches in this conversation.
You're going husband or parent? It's got to be if you're...
hot husband is not. He's great.
Okay.
Love you, Tim.
Tim's hot. I'll give it to you. I met Tim for the first time. Yeah. Shout out Tim.
Good fun guy.
Yeah.
But it would be my mother. And I come from a single household. She raised me growing up with my sister. She was a teacher, so she was always about putting people first. Like, she just loved people again, but she always wanted to continue on herself. So even though like I was always playing softball or was in musicals or doing whatever, she still went and got her master's on her own. And she always wanted to evolve and make herself better. And that's, as I talk about like checking the boxes and continuous improvement, like I'm like Kaizen over here. Like that's how I think about, my job and my personal life, and everything is like, how do you continue to be better, but also not sacrificing the people around you? And I think that's also a good thing about marketing. It's like, it's how are you, how do I continue to get better? How do I continue to think differently? But how am I also doing it for the end result as the customer?
Love it. That's awesome. Makes total sense. What's going on the Papa John's menu at the moment? Any promos or anything you'd like to pump? This thing gets hundreds of thousands, if not millions of downloads.
Shout out.
The time. What do you want? What should people be eating?
First of all, my favorite thing on the menu right now, and it's not on the top of the menu, but there's this New York style crispy pepperoni. It's the little cuppy char pepperonis
The ones
with
that curl up.
yes, like they're delicious. It's on that New York style crust, and then it has this delicious rosa sauce. Like it's chef's kiss. Like legit, you need to go get it. Yeah, there's a few more months on that. The people,
What's it called? The crispy cup.
yeah, New York style crispy cuppy-roni.
New York style. Love marketing, you know.
I mean, how else are you going to sing about it in a song if it
I was
doesn't,
gonna
if you
say,
can't?
Yes, I will. I always, for every brand, I either help with an agency search or who does the podcast, I go take an egregious picture with their food. So
I love that. I mean, if you want to be a little more fun, the cheesy burger pizza is also out right now, backed by popular demand.
okay, I
a
feel
little
out
more-
of those two, the crispy cup of roni sounds more interesting to me. I'm a pizza simpleton. I don't want to deviate. See,
You and most people, 80% of people, one topping pizza, pepperoni, make it happen.
because if you put too many toppings on, the pizza becomes too heavy and it droops and it becomes mush a little bit.
Or what's your pizza crust style?
New York style is my preferred, or like a tavern style, very thin crust pizza.
Very
would
thin,
be
crispy.
Yeah.
Okay, noted. See,
Thank you.
customer research right here.
Insights. I'll give you that one for free for doing the podcast. Thank you for
Appreciate
joining us. This was awesome.
Yeah.
You're wonderful. Everybody go get Papa John's, and we will chat with you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for checking out this episode of You Should Talk To. This show is brought to you by the company with the same name, You Should Talk To, a company that helps marketing leaders find the right agency or freelancer for their situation. If you enjoyed what you learned in this episode, make sure to follow You Should Talk To wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or visit youshouldtalkto.com for more information.